In this tutorial, we're going to show you how you can create a job setup sheet. The job setup sheet contains all the important information about your toolpaths and material setup, and since it is a self-contained HTML file, this means it can be opened in any of the latest web browsers or on any operating system, whether that be on Windows, Linux, Mac or even Android. You can also print it out too. So why might I need all this information, you may ask? Well, the answer is simple. It's always good to double check your settings before running anything on the CNC machine, and this will give you all the information right in front of you to take straight to the CNC. This can be invaluable, as not always do you have the CAD/CAM software on the machine that's running the CNC, so we can see exactly how the part needs to be set up and also spot things that may be wrong before we even begin. During this video, I'm going to show you how the setup sheet changes depending on whether we have a single-sided job, a multi-sheet job, or even a two-sided job. I'm then going to show you how you can edit your setup sheet to make it more personalised for your business, and then also show you how to fix some common problems when it comes to printing the job setup sheets. So let's go ahead and create one. So first of all, I'm just going to open a new copy of the software, and I'm going to go and open an existing file. Now the first example that we're going to look at is the Widget Vector, which is a single-sided job. So just select that and then click Open. Now some of you may be familiar with this if you've done the Widget Vector tutorials. Just to give you a little reminder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin open the Toolpaths tab and the Drawing tab at the same time and just give you a quick rundown of the actual file itself. So if we go to the Layers tab there, I'm just going to uncheck the visibility of the Toolpaths just so it doesn't get in the way of what we're seeing on the vectors. So if I just uncheck all the visibility, we've got the outline shape. Now the outline shape is also related to the profile cutout. So what we've done is we've basically created all the vectors onto separate layers, and then we've created toolpaths which automatically select the vectors on each different layer. So recess rectangles. Now this will be the pocket rectangles toolpath, and if I just double click on that, you'll see that the vector selection is on automatic, and you'll see that straight away that has highlighted all those rectangles that we can see visible. And the same goes for the rest of the toolpath, so I'll just show you the text, and then we've also got the drill holes as well. So you can see all the vectors and the toolpaths that they relate to. Now to create a job setup sheet is really simple. All we do is create our toolpaths, and then we find the icon right next to the Save Toolpaths icon. It's just to the left, and it's called the Create Job Sheet. Now we have two options when selecting this icon. If we want to automatically open the HTML file after it's been created, we can simply press the Control key down at the same time as clicking with the mouse button on the icon. Or if we just want to have it so it just saves into the location, it doesn't automatically open, just click on the icon itself. Now just for ease, I'm going to hold the Control key down here and then press the Create Job Sheet icon. It will automatically suggest a name for us, which is actually taken from the name that you saved your project as, and it's just appended summary to the end of that, and it's going to save it as a self-contained HTML file. So all the images and vectors would all be contained in just this one file. So I'm going to press Save, and I'm just going to overwrite the current copy of the summary sheet that I've got, and press Yes, and it should automatically open that now in my web browser as it has. So let's start with a quick overview of the job setup sheet. So we have the title of our project at the top on Widget Vector. We have the job layout section, which contains the vectors from our job. We also have all the details then underneath that for the material setup. We have a toolpath summary containing the name, the total amount, and the tool information and time estimates for each of the toolpaths. And then we have a more detailed, in-depth look at each of the individual toolpaths themselves underneath. So if we start again from the top, and this time we'll just go into each section in a bit more detail. So first we'll start with the job layout section. You can see all the vectors that relate to our job there, and we also have a vector which represents our material border. Now that material border, if we go into the material setup section, represents our material block, so X9 and Y9. So it's 9 by 9 inches, we can tell that, and that is to scale according to the rest of the vectors. So if we move down now to the material setup, this has all the information that we need to set up our job on the material. So as I just mentioned, we've got the material block dimensions 9 by 9 and the material thickness that we're working with. We also have the home start position, so you can see at the moment we're starting in X0, Y0, and the tool is starting 1 inch above the material. This is also handy to know, as obviously if we don't have enough Z travel with the tool that we're using and the CNC that we're using, we obviously know that there may be a problem. We also know where we need to Z0 from on the material. So we've got at the moment, it's at the top of the material. We also have the XY location, so the bottom left corner. And we also have the clearance value. Now this is important if we're holding down the material with clamps, for instance, that this value needs to be high enough to clear those clamps while the tool is actually traversing around the material to do different toolpaths. The next section we move on to is the toolpath summary. So this basically contains all the toolpaths that we're going to be running on this particular job. So we've got a total of 4 toolpaths, as you can see there, and then underneath that it gives a list of all the different toolpath names. To the right of that we have the corresponding tool which is going to be used for that particular toolpath, and we also have the tool number in brackets there. And then next to the tool name we have our time estimates for each of the individual toolpaths, and at the top we have a toolpath time estimation of them all combined. Underneath that we have the individual toolpath summaries. So if we go into this, you can see that we've got the name of the toolpath that we've given it. We've also got an icon representing the type of toolpath here, and the first bit of information we come to is the toolpath info section. So again, the time estimation is given here as well, and it says the toolpath type here is the pocket toolpath, which does relate to the icon that we can see in the top right hand corner. It then gives us the feed rate, so we've got 100 inches per minute. It gives us the plunge rate, and it also gives us the spindle speed which that toolpath is currently going to be running. Underneath that section we have some related tool information. So we have the tool name, which is given to us as end mill. We have the tool type, then we have some max cut depths. That's the max cut depth for that toolpath. So you can see this is going to be cutting down to 1/8 of an inch. We also have the pass depth for the tool, which is set at 1/8 of an inch, and then we have the tool number and then the step over that was currently set for that particular tool. And that is the same for each of the individual toolpath summaries. So it's definitely worth looking over each of the individual toolpath summaries before we go ahead and run anything, as we will be able to spot if anything is amiss. Now, if one of our max cut depths happens to be more than the actual material thickness itself, the max cut depth will actually highlight in red, just to give you a little warning, just to let you know that that is going to be cutting further down than the actual material thickness that we've set. Now, another thing I'd like to quickly just demonstrate is how the setup sheet lets us know of an offset from our original XY position. Now, we may do this for a number of reasons. Maybe there's a bit of damage to the material, or maybe we started cutting, realised something was wrong and stopped, but that part of the material is now damaged, so we just want to, rather than move all of our work into a different location, we can simply just offset it. So let's just go back into the software, and it's going to go over to the drawing tab, and it's going to go back into the set job dimensions and origin, and I'm going to tick here to use an offset. So let's imagine I'm just going to offset all of our work 1 inch in the x-axis, like so. You'll see that that's now updated that in the 2D view. Now if I press OK, it will ask me if I want to recalculate all those toolpaths. I'm just going to simply press yes, and that's now done that automatically for me. Now if I go back over to the Toolpaths tab, I'm just going to hold Control key down, create a job setup sheet, just press save just to overwrite that one, and you'll see now that we now have the offset position in our material setup, and it says that we've offset it in the x-axis by 1 inch, as you can see there. And that was just basically a simple example of a single-sided job. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the software and now show you the information that's available to us if we use a multi-sheet job. So I'm just going to press File and Close. I'm not going to save the information here. And what I'm going to do is going to go into the Open an Existing File. I'm going to go to the Tutorials folder for the Toolpath Setup Sheets Guide, and then I'm going to click on the Multisheet Cabinets file. Now this is something that we've worked on also in a previous tutorial. So you can see here what I've done is I've imported many vectors from a cabinets drawing program, and then I've organised them into sheets. Now if I go over to the Toolpaths tab, you can get a look at all the toolpaths. Now what I've done here is I've used a gadget which is called Apply Template to All Sheets, and what it does is it loads in a toolpath template and then applies those toolpaths to all the sheets that are available in my job, and then it basically pre-appends each of the toolpaths with the letter S for sheet and a number correlating to the sheet number the toolpath is related to. Now the job sheet knows to output a different job sheet for every sheet on our job, and will only output toolpaths for that particular sheet also. If we have a sheet with no toolpaths, it will not produce a job setup sheet for that particular sheet either. Now holding down the control key will no longer automatically open up produced HTML files, as this may slow down your machine trying to open too many at once. So they'll need to be opened individually. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and press the create job sheet icon, and I'm going to stick with the name that it suggested for me, and it should automatically append the sheet number to each of the individual job setup sheet files. So if I just go ahead and press save now, and if I open up the folder that they were saved in, you'll now see that I have 7 different job sheets all relating to the same job. And you'll see that it's appended, if I just widen that a little bit, you'll see that it's appended the sheet number to the end of the name that we're given it. So if I just double click on sheet 1, you'll see that we've got the vectors for sheet 1. And you'll also see, because this job has had notes added to the file, they're also present as well. So it says this job should be ran with grey beige, Zebrano, lightweight furniture plywood. So we are letting the operator know what type of material we are wanting for this particular job. And if any of the toolpaths also have individual notes attached to them, they will also appear within the actual toolpath summary itself. And just to show you sheet 2, I'm just going to quickly just open that one up. So I'm just going to double click on sheet 2. You see that's updated the vectors for us there. We still have the same job notes, which are applied to every sheet, just so we are fully aware of what material we should be using. We've got the same material setup on all of these. We now have more toolpaths. On this particular sheet we've got 8 in total, so it gives us a quick summary and how long these should take. And then we have also individual toolpath breakdowns. And you'll see that none of the actual max cut depths seem to be highlighted in red. That just means that basically none of the toolpaths are going below the material thickness that we've specified, so that's good. So that was a quick look at creating job sheets for a multi-sheet job. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a quick example of producing job sheets for a MultiSolid job. So if you just go back into the software and just close this down, and I'm going to go back into opening an existing file, and we'll go to the Cool Cubes Toolpath file. Now this, again, you may recognize this if you've done the two-sided tutorial. And this is basically a simple 2D toolpathing example. Now this is the top side, and if we press the number 2 on the keyboard, that'll then switch over to the bottom side, and we can tell that we're on the bottom side because the rulers now have an orange colour to them, and we also see that this icon here has changed. So if we can actually click that icon as well, and you'll see that the arrow goes to underneath the material block there. And to the left of the toggle icon we can see the flip direction being denoted by this icon here. And that's telling us that we're going to be flipping it along the y-axis, so from left to right. Now when creating job sheets for multi-sided parts, we do need to create a job sheet for each side individually. So if we go over to the Toolpaths tab, we'll first of all start with the top side. So just click on the create job setup sheet icon, and then I'm just going to take the standard name, as what it will do is it will append top or bottom to that name automatically for me. So if I just click on that and then press save, and if I go into the folder itself and just find that there, you'll see that it's appended the underscore top to that Cool Cubes Toolpath summary. So if I just double click that, and I'll then open up that summary for us. And again, you see that we've got some job notes here. So this is basically saying please run the top side toolpath first, starting with the drilling toolpath number 1, as these are the locating holes we're going to use for alignment for the bottom side. And you'll also see in the material setup we've got more information regarding the actual job itself. So you'll see that it's a job type of double-sided, and it tells us the side of the material that we're creating the job setup sheet for. I'm going to be setting up the job for, which is the top side with the arrow pointing down on the top of the material block. It also tells us the flip direction as well, and also has an icon indicating the flip direction there. And then we have the standard toolpath summary and also the individual toolpath summaries as well. Now you'll see here that the max cut depth, it has been highlighted in red, and that's on the drilling toolpath, and it's telling us that the max cut depth there of 3/4 of an inch is greater than the material thickness. So if you just go back up to the material setup, you'll see that the material block is actually sized at 1/2 inch. Now, it's highlighted that because of that reason, but it may be the fact that we do actually want to cut through into our spool board, as for this double-sided job we've used dowels basically to hold the part in place when we flip the material over. So in this case we may have meant to cut through the material, but it's always good to have something there that indicates to us that we are going to be cutting past the material depth itself, so that in case it's not something that we do want to do, it's flagged for us to take notice. And to create the job setup sheet for the other side, simply all we do is go back into the software. It's going to press number 2 to get to the bottom, and then again just create the job setup sheet like you would do previously. So if I navigate again to the folder, and we'll now find that the Cool Cubes Toolpath summary bottom has been created, all we do is simply again just double click that, and that'll then open that up in our web browser, and you'll see that the vectors have been updated, and you'll see that the side of material is now bottom with the arrow facing the bottom of our material block. So that completes the first part of this tutorial, where we've shown you how to create a job setup sheet and what information is contained within. There are 2 parts remaining: a brief section on setting up your web browser to print the job setup sheet, and the last section shows you how you can customize your very own job sheet. So in this next part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up your web browser to print the job setup sheet as you can see it here. I will quickly demonstrate this in Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox. The settings should be virtually the same for any other web browser. And without setting up your web browser, you may end up with something that looks like this. If I just press Ctrl and P to get print preview up on Google Chrome, you'll see that the images are all missing from the job setup sheet, and we also have header and footer information. Now in Google Chrome it's very simple to rectify this. All we do is go to the More Settings option on the left hand side, check the box next to Background Graphics, and you'll notice that all the images will now reappear. And if we want to remove the header and footer information, we just need to simply change the margins option to none. And these options will be saved for any other time that we want to print out any web page on this web browser. So if I press cancel now and then press Ctrl P, those options you'll notice have been saved. So that's how we do it in Google Chrome. Let's just bring up Firefox. So here's the Cool Cubes setup sheet in Firefox. So just scroll down, you can see all of that there. So again, we need to get into print preview. If we press Ctrl P in Firefox, that will just bring up the print options. How to get to the print preview is we need to go to the menu and press the print option there, and you'll see that this will bring up the print preview, and again all the images are missing from our job sheet. So again, just go to page setup, check the option to print background images. Now you'll notice, unlike Google Chrome, it doesn't automatically update the background, so we just need to make sure we press all the options and then press OK, and that'll then update the background for us. So if we go to margins and header, let's imagine that we don't want any of this information. So I'm just going to change these all to blank, and I can even remove the margins and replace them with 0. Press OK, and that'll then reload the job sheet as we actually intend it. And you can go ahead and print that now, and you'll see that the information hasn't tried to split the Toolpath drill into 2 pages, as you may find many web pages do that. This has been designed so it actually will move that section onto the next page, as you can see. So that's just a quick section on how to set up your web browser. Again, the logic is exactly the same with other web browsers. Just simply go to print preview and change the page setup to print background images. Now in this next section, I'm going to show you how you can customize your very own job sheet. So you can change the name from job setup sheet to a name of your choosing. You can even change the Vectric logo to your own business logo, and you can choose which sections of the job sheet you want to include. So how do we do this? Well, if we go back into the software and we go to Gadgets, you'll find underneath the Gadgets section, pre-installed with the software will be a gadget called the Setup Sheet Editor. Simply click on that, and this will bring up all the options that we are able to change and customize with our job setup sheet. So we can, if we wish, we can change the logo from the Vectric logo to a logo of our own. We can change the title from Job Setup Sheet, which you'll see appears at the very top left of the Job Setup Sheet, to a name of our choosing. We have the option to change the header and footer colour, so that's the colour of the background here and at the bottom here. We can change the text colour, so that's the colour of the text throughout the job sheet. We also have the option to change the border colour, so that's the border that goes around each of the individual sections. Then we get to the part where we can add and remove information from the setup sheet itself. And each number next to the option relates to the section in this image here. So the first option relates to the job layout vectors, as you can see, matches here. Then we have the option to remove the job notes if these are included on a particular job which we are creating a job sheet for. Then we have the option to remove the material setup, the toolpath summary, and then the individual toolpath summaries. And the very last option in this job sheet editor is actually to return to the default job sheet. If we've made edits that we no longer want, we can simply just scrap them all and reset them to default. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate this. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the logo. So I'm going to press Browse, and I have a logo here. Let me just change this to large icon so you can see a preview. So it's got your logo here. Click on that and click Open. And these images will be scaled down to fit 165 pixels by 52, which is the area inside this white section here where the Vectric logo is currently sat. Then we can move on to change the title if we wish. So I may just want to call this maybe just a summary sheet. And then we can go ahead and change the colours. So the header and footer colour, we can actually just, if we wanted to, start typing out any hex value that we may find on the internet, or we can use this nice colour box which we can drag the mouse around, and under any colour we can then stop and then choose also the how light or dark of that particular colour we would like it. So I may want to go for maybe a dark colour, so I'm just going to go in the top right hand corner and just maybe do something like that. The text colour, I may just want to make that slightly darker, like so, and I can give the border colour maybe another red. So I maybe just want to actually just copy the same colour out of the header and footer colour there and just paste that in like so. And then we can go ahead and just remove some sections if we wish. So I may just want to, let's say, remove the toolpath summary, and let's just the job layout vectors for instance, and then press OK. And this will then give us a warning to say that the software will require a restart for the changes to take effect. Please save your work and then restart the software. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to file and close this, and need to actually exit out of the software completely. So I'm just going to restart the software now. And with it restarted, I'm just going to again open the existing file. Now I don't have to actually go here. I can open it from the recently opened files, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to go over to the Toolpaths tab, and now what I'm going to do, now I've edited the setup sheet itself, when I click to create the job sheet and then specify the area where I would like it, so I'm just going to save it there like so. And then if I navigate my way to the folder where it belongs, so just bring that back up, and it should be Cool Cube's top, which is the one that I've just edited, you'll see that I now have my new setup sheet. So it's removed the job layout vectors, I've got my own logo, my own colour scheme, and you'll also notice that the toolpath summary has now been removed as well. Now we can easily go back into the software and just carry on editing our job setup sheet until we have all the information and we have it styled exactly as we like. But if we ever wanted to revert back to the standard Vectric job setup sheet, that's really easy to achieve. All we need to do is come back into the job setup sheet editor, press the restore button, it'll say restore complete if it restores successfully. Then all you need to do is just cancel out of the job setup sheet editor, and again create a job sheet like so, and just open it up again. You'll notice that it has now reverted to the standard job setup sheet from Vectric, like so. And with that concludes this tutorial. So again, thank you very much for watching.